Welcome back, everyone. First safe space this week. Oh yes, and it's a very sleepy safe space today. Oh man, I've had a long night, but we'll get into that in a moment. Big shout out to all you crazy cats coming in. We've got Greg, Armand, King Sweet. Yes, War. He's in there as well. Big shout out to War. Good to see you, man. Who else we got kicking about in the safe space today? We have got Billy Joe. How are you doing, my good friend? Long time no speak. We've got Lich Gore in there. Brilliant. Lich Gore. Sorry. Somebody self-identifies as a cashew. You're nuts. You truly are nuts. Sam Rodriguez, big shout out to you. J.H. Armstrong. Yes. Thought it said space mirrors and thought, yes, indeed, smoke and mirrors. Everything's smoke and mirrors, right? We've got Nancy in there. Sailor. Like that. Tessa. Mannerus. Queen Goddess. Who else kicking about? Fred, you're going to see your amazing creation in just a moment. It sits on my microphone arm, dude. It's perfect. Armand. Denny was staying up late last night. Well, I think Denny stayed up late. I'm not sure what part of the world Denny's in. Big shout out to Tinker. Yes, indeed. What else we got? Sex Lexia, our newest member to the channel. And get this, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for this? Are you ready to hear this? This really did, it almost blew me away today when I found this out. But, get a load of this. We'll get set up here. There we go, folks. I'm here. We'll turn the music down a little bit. Yeah, we need one new member. Just one. That is all we need. We are sitting on the grand total of, and I have to pinch myself when I say this, 99 members right here on the Kev Baker Show YouTube channel. I can't get the smile off my face. Why? Because when the memberships first appeared on the channel, I honestly thought, this is ridiculous. There's no way the good people that come to watch any of their favourite YouTubers are actually going to shell out for something that they already get for free anyway. Yeah, you have definitely taken that and thrown it right back at me, because I cannot thank you all enough for the support that you are giving yours truly here. It means so much personally. On a confidence level, it's really hard to convey what that does to me personally. And for the channel, that's got to be a good thing, because I am absolutely loving doing all this content right now. Now, some days there's better stories than others, and that's natural. And none of this is forced. You know, what you see is what you get. And everything together, and I think you're all picking up on this as well, I think we've got something pretty cool going on here. Something pretty special. We're never going to be the biggest YouTube channel in the world. I've got no ambition to be that. but I think we can definitely take this to the best levels that we can. And last night, I think this might be an indication, a timely indication of what I'm talking about, because from time to time I get invited onto shows, and some of these shows obviously bigger than others. And in the past, I have I have absolutely lauded over Clyde Lewis and his show Ground Zero. And I make no bones about the fact that Clyde Lewis is somebody who is very, very instrumental in the kind of the making of Kev Baker, the radio show host, because he's somebody that I've looked to for years. Love his content, love his shows, and he's pretty much number one in the game, arguably, right now with his show Ground Zero. And yesterday, amidst all of the great atmosphere that's going on here, oh my word, well, we have done it. We have done it, ladies and gentlemen. We have got to the 100 mark. Annie, 100 members, the hairy hands. I'll need to take to the Photoshop studio in between now and, yeah, guess what? We've got another simulcast later. Ben Emlyn Jones is going to be going on to... Yeah, we're going to have hairy hands then. Did you not hear the story of the hairy hand? And I'm going to have to tell you the story of the hairy hand. And it's the fact that your eyes lit up there when I started talking about hairy hands. That's quite worrying, folks, isn't it? Just sitting there like, hairy hands, eh? Looks like Anne's looking for a hairy hand. Any hairy hands out there? Any takers? No? Any of you girls got hairy hands? You know, I'm very inclusive these days. But tonight, yeah, get a load of that. Ben Emlyn Jones is going to be on the show. But back to where I was before Anne derailed me. And folks, that's 100 members. This is huge. It's probably going to take a couple of minutes for it to sink in with me. Thank you so much. So much, Lichgore or Lichgore. I'm just going to call you Lich. Lichy. Yeah, Lich will do. And no, 100. Can't believe it. We're going to have a special 100 stream this Sunday. How's that sound? We'll probably have a lot more than 100 by then, but we'll have a special 100 stream. Yes, the VIP lounge will be open to all, but members only chat. So if you're in that 100 club, you will be getting the chat room open. But I'm over the moon. I'm stoked. You've put me all wrong. But I was talking about Clyde Lewis. And yes, amidst everything that's going on in the channel right now, you know, a month or so into these safe spaces, maybe a bit longer, we're now starting to get a bit of recognition. And what I mean is I got invited on to Clyde's show yesterday to talk about the Loch Ness Monster. Now, because Clyde's on the west coast of the US, I'm over here in the UK, it was horrendous timings. It was 4 a.m. in the morning until 6 a.m. I was pumped full of adrenaline. I know a few of the people in the chat room, you hung around, you were up, you were in the US, you listened to the show. I hope you enjoyed it. But the reason I didn't put it out more publicly and I didn't bombard social media was because it really wasn't confirmed right up until the last moment, maybe a few hours before the show. And I didn't want to go saying, oh, look at me, I'm going to be on Clyde Lewis's show. You know, over 100 affiliates, goes all around the world, millions of listeners, only for it maybe to fall flat on its face and I would look stupid. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play for you 5 or 10 minutes of the segment that I was on with Clyde Lewis talking about the Loch Ness Monster. I'm going to drop a link in the chat room as well. And I've also, while we're listening to this, on the right-hand side of the screen here, in the movie theatre, if you will, the movie theatre, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the Chrome browser that you're used to seeing. And while we're listening to myself and Clyde, just for 5 minutes or so, I just want to give you a taste of this. And the full show's for free over on SoundCloud. You don't have to pay a penny. I'm going to take the browser away. And what you see here is some footage that I filmed of Loch Ness the last time that I went home. So we'll come over to the SoundCloud. I'll bring that up now. And this is me yesterday. I'll bring this up here first so you can see where I am. This is me yesterday on Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis. Would that make him Clyde Zero if it's Ground Lewis? No, folks, I love Clyde to bits, and any time I've been invited on there, it's quite comical, really, because I get myself in some state. I sit here, I'm panicking, it's 3 a.m. in the morning, I've got an hour to go, the sweat's dripping off me, and it's only because I respect Clyde, I respect his audience, and I hate the thought of just letting anyone down in the slightest. But then 5 minutes into it, I don't know why I bother worrying, because the Kev Baker show kicks in, and it's what we're all used to. So take a little listen to this.
So after a long weekend, I got up this morning, was able to, I got up early for some reason. Early for me is like 9:30, 8:30, 9:30 in the morning. Usually I'm in bed, out of bed by 11 a.m. I go to bed really late. But I was able to catch a bit of the local news, which is interesting because I rarely get the local news. I usually watch CNN, MSNBC, or Fox. And it's getting to the point where that's nothing more than an arduous task every day to try and get through that news. And so getting the local news was kind of refreshing. But I had one of those bad movie moments, you know, when you turn on the TV and a story you wanted to hear.
King Sweet. This is the thing, right? Because I say to Scotty, I say to Johnny Whistles, I say to Joe, I say the last thing. Now Carol Rosen talks about the last card they'll play. Well, honestly, it's like I sound like Carol Rosen when I'm telling the boys that the last thing that I want is to become the Monster Man. And I think I am. The last 2 times I've been on Clyde now, I've been like his go-to guy for the Loch Ness Monster, and I get it. If I was a host out there and I was looking for somebody to talk about Loch Ness, and there's a dude who runs his own show that's kind of similar to mine, and he's over in Scotland, and he grew up by Loch Ness, it would be an obvious go-to, right? But I'm still not comfortable with being the Monster Man. I don't know. Maybe I should really play on this. Maybe I should just go full monster, right?
Comes on right when the switch goes on, because I had heard something about 5 earthquakes happening off the coast. See, I live...
Oh, Sam. Oh, wow. This is an amazing moment for you, because when you're at that point where you don't know who Clyde Lewis is, and then you get introduced to him, if you love what I do here, I would bet $100 that you're going to like Clyde Lewis. If you like Ryan Gable, and I know a lot of people love it when me and Ryan team up, and I tell you what, behind the scenes, folks, me and Ryan, we like that. We just connect. It's one of those friendships. It's one of those frequencies. But if you like Ryan, you're going to love Clyde Lewis. Clyde Lewis is like the Kev Baker Show, Ryan Gable, Coast to Coast, and a whole lot more, all wrapped into one. And it's got the Clyde Lewis stringing it all together. When you hear me talking about patterns that I see emerging in the media, stories linking together, this is the guy that I heard talking about this. Chris Geo, Cherie Geo back in the day as well, the synchronicities. So a lot of what you see here, directly or indirectly, has been influenced by years of listening to Clyde. So please, if you haven't checked out Clyde, please do so. He runs for 5 hours, Monday to Friday. And when you take all the breaks out of that, you can get it over on SoundCloud. 3.5 hours every day of some of the top-notch grade A woo in the world. I can't talk about him highly enough. I really can't. I know I'm a fanboy. Even people when I've been on the show like that, Kev, you can tell you're a pure fanboy. Because I am.
You know, about 80 miles away from the coast. But these were happening some 200 miles away in an area called Bandon. It was about 300 miles away. Bandon, then 200 miles outside the coast in the ocean, had a number of earthquakes. And apparently the U.S. Geological Survey reports that there have been 5 magnitude 4.0s that have occurred off the southern Oregon coast since October 1st. So we had one this morning at about 6:30 this morning. This one was a 4.6. And earthquakes, man, get me really paranoid because, you know, you just can't escape an earthquake. And if it's a really, really deep, you know, shaking quake, you're going to have damage. You're going to be like, you know, holding on for dear life. And I did a report a while back. They were doing a major deal in one of the studios down below about what happens if the big one hits. And I'm thinking, I just don't want to think about it. I think about a 9.0. It may hit here or may hit in Seattle or somewhere. Someone said, no, it's just going to hit off Bend in Oregon, and there'll be a huge tsunami and everybody will be gone. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I just don't want to have to think about it. Well, it's funny because I was so obsessed with this earthquake story off the coast. I wanted to know about underwater volcanoes because I had this suspicion, right, that if these earthquakes continue, I know that we're on the Ring of Fire here. So that's the Cascadia subduction zone. We know all about this because we learned about it being here in the Pacific Northwest. We know that these things happen. But as I was looking on the internet, having my concerns about earthquakes and underwater volcanoes, I stumbled upon something called the axial seamount. And it's like this huge pit in the Pacific Ocean, a huge pit where molten lava boils to the top and gases expel into the ocean. And this axial seamount has been the subject of many stories that deal with the deep abyss and what kind of strangeness goes on some 200 miles off the coast. And I'm thinking, the deep abyss, this sounds kind of biblical type of thing, right? Like the bottomless pit opens up. And so as I was, doing my research on the axial seamount, I stumbled upon this sound that they've recorded off they call them hydrophones. They've recorded them off the Portland coast, not the Portland coast, but the Oregon coast. And they use these hydrophones to record all over the oceans. They go as far as New Zealand, they go as far as Chile, all over South America. But this one is the recording of this volcano that's in the ocean here. And when I listened to the sound, I couldn't help but think about those days. Remember when we used to listen to Art Bell?
Now, before we listen to the sound, King, I promise you, man, I could leave you sitting on the edge of your chair, but none of the ducks got it. None of the ducks got eaten. All of the ducks made it home safely after this video. And that's from the Fort Augustus end. But that's basically where I used to hang around as a child with nothing to do, because there was nothing for youngsters up there at the time. So that view that you're getting there from the southeast mouth of the loch, very, very familiar to me indeed. Very familiar.
And it was a late night, and we listened to the Art Bell show, and Art Bell would talk about the microphone that was lowered into the hole to hell. Remember that story? Where someone had taken a microphone and lowered it into a bottomless pit in Siberia. And you heard these voices of people screaming and wailing and gnashing of teeth, really biblical, scary stuff. And he played that late at night and keep you on the edge of your seat, and you just didn't know what to do when you heard it. Well, I found a sound of this axial seamount that reminded me of that very same thing. Although this doesn't sound like people wailing and gnashing of teeth, it sounds like the opening of the gates of hell, and there's a choir, a hell choir, singing. It sounds like a hell choir singing. Listen to this. This is the sound of the underwater volcano, the axial seamount. This is pretty creepy. Is the sound of the bottomless pit.
That's the sound of like an underwater volcano off the Oregon coast. I don't know what it is about audio sounds in particular when they're from underwater, but there's something very, very creepy about them, I think. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I love radio shows when they play audio like that, but there's something about it. I don't know what it is. But I'm coming up in just a minute, folks, don't you worry. I'm not going to play too much more of this. We're going to talk about the monster. We're going to hang out with the chat room, get your thoughts on the monster, cryptids, all the kind of things that make you go bump or woo in the night. Just get that on a t-shirt, right? Things that make you go woo in the night. The hairy hands will make you go ooh in the middle of the night, Anne. I bet you, yes. Still smiling about that, hairy? That's a disturbing thing, Anne. Dang, dude. I'll go grow some hairs, right? I need to go full Sasquatch. Anne's got a thing for the Sasquatch. Who knew? I didn't know. If John Fuller's out there, send me a Sasquatch suit. I need the full suit, my friend. I know it's going to be warm in that latex and that, but hey, to get your kink on, what can you do, right? But yeah, we'll go back, we'll listen to this. But that sound, something very ominous indeed. And what you're looking at here, I seen Billy asking in the chat room, can you go swimming in there? You could, but not for long. It is totally freezing. And interestingly enough, when we had the Storm Area 51 shenanigans going on, it was inevitable, right? People started a Facebook page called Storm Loch Ness. So we had the National Lifeboat Institute. They were actually telling the 18,000 who said they were attending. And from what I can make out, you'll be lucky if 18 attended anything. It's too cold for that kind of thing up there in September. But yeah, they were telling people be very careful because the water is treacherous. And from time to time, you have people attempting to swim the full 26 miles, one end to the other. And they actually have to cover themselves head to toe in like goose fat so that they can keep their body heat going. Basically, because you die of hypothermia in there very, very, very quickly. The one upside, if you were to meet a bad end in the loch, there is no upside, I get that, but you would be well preserved because as I was telling Clyde last night, a lot of the loch is got peat. See the peat that you can burn as a fuel, bog peat, along the bottom. It's just covered in peat, and that adds to the dark, kind of murky waters. When you put one of these underwater cameras in there, the visibility, you'd be lucky if you get a couple of meters. It's just horrible. It's murky, it's muddy, it's grim. But like I say, it'll keep you well preserved if you hit the bottom. Oh, that's morbid.
The bottomless pit in the Pacific Ocean called the axial seamount. Now, what is scary about the axial seamount is that when it spews forth its molten lava, there are things that come up out of it. Strange creatures that wash up on the shores of the Pacific Northwest and sometimes on the California beaches. And there's also tales of formless spawn that have been seen. Tales that have been spun from events such as these eruptions from the axial seamount. These formless spawn, some say, could be the sighting of this molten lava flow, but that doesn't take away the fact that people have been seeing what are known as polymorphic entities with acidic black ichor, they call it, viscous acidic blood. They've tried to kill them, and they can't. They lurk in the depths of the Pacific. And if you've read anything by H.P. Lovecraft, he called the formless spawn Sithogua. Sithogua. I believe that Sithogua is kind of like the xenomorph from the Alien movies. Sort of a formless spawn that eventually creates a shape and has this viscous acidic blood in it. And of course, in the oceans, there's this dark, slow-moving mass that's been depicted as something similar to the Rancor in Star Wars. And what's interesting is that, you know, there have been a few sightings of this thing. Off the Oregon coast, not so many. 1935 was the last time. And then, of course, there was another sighting in Puerto Rico. David Fravor, the guy who is well known for, you know, describing how his squadron witnessed a strange object just under the surface of the water. And then, of course, they were tracking the Tic Tacs in 2004, the Nimitz encounter. Fravor was on the Joe Rogan podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, and he made this chilling claim. He said 10 years before the famous Tic Tac incident, he spoke of an immense dark mass that was seen coming up from the depths of the ocean moments before a torpedo disappeared. Fravor, of course, specified that he thought the object was a UFO or some kind of USO. But see, that's the thing about unidentified submerged objects. You walk a fine line between alien machinery underwater and then crypto critters that share the same characteristics as the Loch Ness Monster of Scotland. Well, that dark mass could have been any number of things, but he said that dark mass swallowed a torpedo. So they fired a torpedo at it and it just swallowed it. Now, you can let your imagination run wild when you see a dark mass. You can't make out the detail. earlier last month.
Any dark mass eating a torpedo, I turn my boat 180 degrees or my fighter jet and I get the hell out of there. Big time. Big time. Myself and Scott Lopez were talking about this last night when we were listening to it. Because myself and Scott, we were messaging on Facebook and while I was waiting to come on with Clyde. And again, I come on in just a little moment, folks. We'll hear the start of that, then we'll talk about this stuff. We'll get into the chat room as well. But yeah, this thing where like eating a missile. The one thing that sprang to my mind, especially with it being like, I think it was the Pacific Ocean, I think, it was Godzilla. Godzilla and Godzuki. Yes, Godzuki as well. And Scott burst out laughing because it's exactly what he was thinking about too. And I know it's not Godzilla or Godzuki, folks. And to anyone out there who does doubt that there might be creatures in the sea that we know very little about, I contest that. And I just ask you and urge you to consider the size of the planet, how much of the planet is covered by water, but even more importantly, how many of the world's deepest ocean trenches have we never even been near? We probably know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the full surface of our own planet. And I do think there are creatures, whether it's in Loch Ness or the aforementioned ocean trenches, that there are monsters, that there are creatures. I hate calling it a monster in Loch Ness because it's never done anything terrifying. It's never been involved in any big episode where there's been like some poor character, stuck on a boat, cowering in the corner as Nessie's cornered them or anything like that. So it's a creature. It's an unknown species of something. Whether it's from this realm or not, that's another question. And the things in the sea, I would imagine there's creatures in the sea we're probably never likely even to discover. We probably can't get down deep enough, and even if we did, then there's still that random chance that you might not see it on that occasion you're down there. You might not find evidence for it ever existing. No remains are ever left behind. Other fish come along, get rid of that. So when it comes to this kind of thing, I think it's some of the best woo out there because it's the unseen and yet it's right in front of you. Like when you look at Loch Ness there, look at that. 26 miles of potential. Because all you see is that almost a screen-like surface, right? And then everything beneath that, it's left up to the imagination. And we just know, and we love how powerful our imaginations are. When it comes to vast bodies of water, creepy crawlies, and creatures like Nessie, some of the best woo and some of the best kind of thought-provoking stuff out there, because what if there are these creatures out there? What if there are things like Cthulhu? What if the Megalodon's still out there somewhere? And tonight, when I've got Ben Emlyn-Jones on the show, we're going to be getting into things like this because he's got stories where there's evidence of something that the scientists don't even know what they're dealing with. But let's get back into a little bit of Clyde. And then, like I say, we'll go into the chat room. We'll get your thoughts. The safe space, it's not about me. It's about all of us here. And because I've been up all night and I'm very, very sleepy tired today, we're going to have a nice little chilled out one and sitting laughing. Just you get back to thinking about your hairy hands, okay? You absolute deviant. And people say I'm toxic. Terrible. Terrible. You think I'm bad? Oh, folks, she's worse than I am. But the stories I could tell you, I would have to make this X-rated and probably go over to Pornhub. Oh, they do say you end up like the one you live with. Well, that doesn't say much for me. At least it doesn't say anything that you people out there didn't already know, right?
Scientists were trying to figure out what that dark mass was that was sighted at Loch Ness. In fact, there have been a lot of sightings this year of the Loch Ness Monster. 2019 has been a banner year for Loch Ness. And so we're glad tonight to have with us Kev Baker. He comes from Glasgow, Scotland, and he's the host of the Kev Baker Show on Truth Frequency Radio. And Kev covers topics ranging from geopolitics to the paranormal, and he encourages free thought and critical thinking on his show. And we're going to bring him up to talk tonight. Kev Baker, you're on Ground Zero.
It's fantastic to be back, Clyde, and I always love it when we can hang out and get into the monsters, and nothing better to talk about, right?
Yeah, nothing better, especially when apparently you've been busy, I'm sure, because this has been a banner year for Nessie sightings, hasn't it?
It has. It's been off the charts, and I think back in last month we had our 14th sighting of the year to date, and this was somebody actually over in Hong Kong. They were trying to get away from the protests for a couple of hours, spent some time watching the webcams of Loch Ness, and lo and behold, there's something mysterious in the loch. And like you were saying, 2019, it's almost been a resurgence in Nessie mania. And going alongside, coinciding with that, we've had a really big scientific push to explain just what is or isn't in the loch. And that's been quite interesting to watch unfold at the same time, Clyde.
Well, those results that I read about them in the first hour, the results of whether or not, they did some DNA tests in the water and trying to figure out what had been there. They ruled out crocodiles. They ruled out Greenland sharks. They ruled out a number of things. They even ruled out dinosaurs. I don't know how the hell they did that. But then they said, well, perhaps a family of giant eels live in the loch, and that's why people are seeing this monster that they actually try to spawn from the Bahamas through the Sargasso Sea into the Scottish waters to lay eggs. That was their theory. But this meant a lot of controversy. And of course, a lot of people are saying that the whole science is completely off. It's not even close. What do you say to that?
Yeah, and there was such a build-up, such fanfare about the findings coming out. I think they kind of strung us along for about a year. And I was always very skeptical as to what they would find. And I'll be blatantly honest, Clyde, when I first heard the whole eel hypothesis or DNA evidence, I reacted very negatively indeed. I rolled my eyes and I thought, come on, is that the best they can come up with? However, that was kind of my emotional reaction, try to kill off our monster with calling it an eel. Mm-hmm. But then when I thought about it, growing up in the area, we would spend a lot of the summers going out fishing, and being at the mouth of Loch Ness with the Caledonian Canal, and we would cast our rods in there, and you'd catch the odd pike. You've also got trout, brown trout in Loch Ness. Mm-hmm. Quite interesting, actually, Clyde. They end up some of them turn into cannibals, and then you get above average sized trout. So that's another strange thing that goes on in the loch. But the eels, there was an absolute abundance of eels. So it doesn't actually surprise me that they've come back with eel DNA. I would imagine there's a lot of that floating about in the loch.
Right.
Now, how discovery of that in any scientific way, shape, or form can be evidence that this is Nessie in the first place is beyond.
I was going to say the good news here, Kev, is that they're at least taking it seriously. They're taking this seriously enough to do an investigation. They're taking it seriously enough to analyze DNA within the loch. And the fact, once again.
So there you go, folks. There you go. I'm going to drop the link for Ground Zero in the chat room right now. I always love it when I find out there's people that haven't checked out Clyde. Because invariably, I've never had anyone come back to me and say, no, Kev, not really my cup of tea, to be honest with you. Because like I say, there's elements of the Kev Baker show that definitely have come from Ground Zero, because it's the kind of, Clyde's the kind of presenter that when I grow up, I would love to be. He sits and writes like a 1 hour long monologue daily for every show, and that in itself helps to build up this knowledge base that he has. And it's just like some kind of Rolodex system he's got, because any of the guests, any of the callers, they can bring up absolutely anything, and Clyde's just got it there right at his fingertips, and he's able to go into it. So, yeah, you can catch that over on soundcloud.com, Ground Zero. And that's the reason why I'm a wee bit sleepy, a wee bit tired today, because it's not a complaint, but with these time zones, 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. time slot, I don't know if that suits me too well. I'm not a morning person at the best of times. And luckily, that's just before the kind of Kev Jekyll comes out, because in the morning, oh, you don't want to see me in the morning, folks. Not a pretty sight whatsoever. So I'm going to dive into the chat room, see what you people are saying in there. I was on with Clyde for 2 hours, like I was saying, and then he went on to take more calls and take the story further after I left. So you can find all of that, all of it, including the actual build-up, the hour or so, the 40 minutes before I came on. And yeah, absolutely fascinating. Always great topics. And last night in particular, getting into that, we spoke about Geordie Rose. We spoke a little bit about CERN. We spoke a little bit about Crowley. So yeah, all in all, very, very impressive. Very impressive indeed. So I'll let it catch up, then I'll get into the chat with all you good people. Here we go. There we go, Carol. Yes, please do, Carol. Not for my sake, not for Clyde's, but for you. If you love these kind of topics, absolutely fantastic. Our man says, I love to go camping to Loch Ness, maybe after Christmas, as I love camping in the winter with my telescope. Oh, Armand. The side of Loch Ness, you know, looking up there, cloudless night. You feel me, brother. Oh, that's a sight to behold. I must admit, when I was in America, though, and in Florida, we had a lot of cloudless nights, and the view from over there, I don't know, it's just awe-inspiring. It truly, truly was. And yeah, Queen Goddess, I think you've got a camping partner, Armand. She sounds like she wants to go with you. I would go for it, dude. What else are people saying in here? Lothar. I think there's Scottish turtles playing around in the peat bog lock that the kilt's on, and they're ready to fight. Lothar. Could it be a Masonic monster? Yes, I heard that Nessie rolls up one trouser leg, and when you go to shake flippers with him, he does something really weird. But that's just a rumour. So then, let's see what Lich Gore is saying. Lich. We'll just call you Lich, okay? Sea monster sightings go back 1,000 or go back thousands of years over many places all over the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing new in this. And what else have we got? A houseboat on Loch Ness would be pimp status. King, get this, dude. If you had a houseboat on Loch Ness, not only would you be like pimp status, but it would be like the party zone as well, because in the summer when everyone's up there, you know, everyone's going to the pubs, you have a sing-along, you usually have a lock-in in the pub. It goes on a lot longer than is legal, but then everyone looks for a house to go back to. And if you've got a floating pimp palace, you feel me, dude? We're in. Yeah, we're partying hard. I get it. So what else have we got? You're most welcome if you find yourself over this side of the pond. I think we've got Armand and Queen Goddess going camping together. Damn, I thought I just handed out dating advice. I didn't think I was going to literally turn into the YouTube Tinder. This is awesome. Imagine we have a KBS wedding. How cool would that be? I know, I'm maybe just like projecting a little bit too far down the road. But I'm just saying, folks. Let's scroll up, see what people have been saying. It's a good topic. Very good topic. I give him a listen tonight after KBS with our Ben. Yes, indeed. Kev sounds like an expert. And Clyde Lewis, probably. Read David Icke, Harriet. Any book by his, really. People have seen these entities before and do some artistic representations. Yes, big time. Good shout. Good shout, Sam. And that's, of course, talking about what aliens may or may not look like. Also, if you go to that show I done with... Where are we now? Damn, I do too many shows, folks, don't I? That one there with John. John Sumple.
Look at all of the...
There's The documentary that he made, Extraordinary, the seeding, a lot of contactee, abductee representations of what these entities look like. Not all aliens are nice, folks. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. How they did the autopsy, it had red blood and eggs, so female. I'm not sure if I buy any of the alien autopsies that we've ever seen, but then that might not be an alien autopsy we're talking about. CERN is a technological Ouija board. Yeah. Harriet, I know what you're saying, and there's a lot to be concerned about with CERN, but it's one of like hundreds of particle accelerators. So you'd have to say all of them really have the same potential. I get it, CERN are bigger, but a little known fact, and while everyone shouts about CERN and strangelets and turning the planet into a neutron star, it was myself and Anthony Patch. We informed people that it wasn't CERN that first created the strangelet. And in fact, that's somewhere called Brookhaven Labs over in America, near New York. The relativistic heavy ion collider. You've got one at Fermi Labs as well. You've got particle colliders everywhere. Are they opening portals when they attain certain energies? Absolutely. They say that themselves. There's nothing hidden about that. You can go and find CERN scientists talking about opening microscopic wormholes, portals to other dimensions. That's not my conjecture. That's not speculation. And if that's wrong, then that's on them. That's not on us. But yeah, if you're going to worry about CERN, worry about all of them. Or as I tend to do, yeah, keep an eye on them. But at the same time, don't go overly worrying about anything too much, because there's always something else going on that might take your attention from. And look where we are now. Here's an encouraging thing about CERN, okay? It's been running now in its present form for a couple of years before they shut it down. They were creating all the strangelets, and they were doing all the stuff that myself and Anthony were telling you about. I stand by all of that, all of the science and things. And the other stuff, even Anthony himself, would be speculation, the Birkeland currents to Saturn, stuff like that. But we're still here. That's the main thing. That would be my main takeaway when it comes to CERN. Despite all of the hype, despite all of the fanfare, we're still here. Now, is the world getting a little bit weirder while CERN's running? Oh, hell yeah. But can we attribute all of that to CERN? That would be hard to prove. So yeah, I keep my eye on it, and don't worry folks, if there's anything coming out about CERN that's relevant, I'll cover it. But it gets to the point where sometimes you just go into CERN and you cover it for the sake of covering it, because some people are truly fascinated by it, and it generates a lot of clicks. I could probably get us up to that 100,000 sub mark, because people would become flocking back to the channel because Kev's talking about CERN every day. I think I'd be wasting your time. Yeah, sure, it's interesting to cover now and again, but I can't justify covering it constantly, especially when it's shut down. When it comes back to life and it's fired up again, absolutely, I'll be the first one there. I'll be doing a week of shows on it. But I don't know, I wouldn't feel comfortable pushing one topic just for the sake of getting those extra clicks and those extra subs. It's not what we're doing here. It's not how we roll. And again, that might actually be detrimental for me and the channel, right? Because I don't chase the clicks. I don't look at the trending topics. But I find that doing it honestly and doing it the way we are now, and not putting any kind of expectations when it comes to subs or things like that. We've got a nice thing going with the memberships and with what we've got going here. That's my point. So yeah, I will cover CERN again. Don't worry, folks. I'll get back into that. But just right now, it would feel like I'm just covering it for the sake of covering it. I hope that makes sense. Now, it could turn out, wake up tomorrow and CERN has a massive explosion or something like that, and I look totally stupid. But at the same time, I will still have been honest with you today. So yeah, I'll keep my eye on that for you. When it's time to be concerned, wow. Imagine a traffic cone appears in one of the detectors. That would be concerning. That was a good one. Better than most of my jokes, right? So Harriet, or who was it? Was it Harriet? I think it was Harriet. I think so. Don't you worry about that, sir. And I've got my eye on it. I've got my eye on that Shiva out in the garden. We've got it covered. Telling you. So then, back into the monsters, right? And one thing that I blew Clyde Lewis's mind with the last time when I was on his show was when we were talking about the monster, and I put it to him that it might not be your typical plesiosaur. Some people think it's a giant sturgeon at the bottom. We learned last night some people even think it's a Greenland shark. What if it could be all of the above and then so much more? We've got so many different sightings, right? You've got long neck, no neck, humps, no humps, below the water, out the water, coming up out the loch, totally in the loch. How can one beastie or one type of creature account for all of that variation? Well, I put to you, my friends, the Kelpie. Yes. Johnny Whistles absolutely loves Kelpies. This is what, if you could buy Whistles a pet, it would be a Kelpie, right? So it says here, the Kelpie, or the water Kelpie, is a Scots name given to a shape-shifting water spirit inhabiting the lochs and pools of Scotland. Now, it has usually been described as appearing on a horse or as a horse, but is able to adopt human form. Some accounts state that the Kelpie retains its hooves when appearing as human, leading to its association with the Christian idea of Satan, as alluded to by Robert Burns in his 1786 poem, Address to the Devil. Now, this whole thing with the cloven feet, the hooves, that is so interesting to me, and in particular regarding a story that I've told in the past. And that's the one in Fort Augustus where just after World War II time, I think it was 50s, there was a dance, and it's a very rural area, so everybody knows everyone else, and it was a Scottish country kind of dance music on. And at the time as well, it's the Free Presbyterian Church up there, so everyone's kind of well-mannered. You know, it's not people, going mad, anything like that. So everyone's at this dance. Everything's going fine. Great night. Everyone doing their Scottish dancing, the Strip the Willows, and all the rest of it's going on. And all of the girls, all of the young ladies there were absolutely falling over themselves trying to figure out who this handsome dude was that nobody knew. And at the same time, all of the guys there, they're giving him the evil eye because they noticed that all of the local girls, they've only got eyes for this tall, dark, handsome stranger. Nobody knows who he is. Full kilt on, looking the absolute berries. Business. So that's fine. And then one lady ends up catching the attention of said stranger. They get dancing, and as the night goes on, the dances get slower and they get closer, and all the local guys are raging. They're looking for a fight at the end of the night because this guy's stealing the nicest girl in the hall, kind of thing. And then it gets to that last dance of the night. Dance finishes. Everything's fine. Guy goes to give the lady a little kiss on the cheek. Lights come on, and she just happens to be looking down, and what she thought was his woolly socks that goes with the actual Highland dress, the kilt, were in fact hairy legs that tailed off into cloven feet. Now, a lot of people attribute that story, or they connect it to the fact that Crowley lived up there opening portals, and call it the Baphomet, call it the devil, call it what you will, but isn't it interesting that this same village, Fort Augustus, sits right at the mouth of Loch Ness, where we have a monster who does, if we go by witnesses' accounts, appear to take many various shapes and forms. Some humps, some no humps. Some long neck, no neck. Some see it coming out the water, some see it going in, some see it never leaving. You get me, right? And now we find out that this Kelpie, this shapeshifter, when it takes a human form, some accounts state that the Kelpie retains its hooves when appearing as a human. Now, none of this proves anything. None of it proves anything. I get that. Remember those patterns, those connections I was saying that Clyde Lewis taught me to look out for? You know, when you see things like this starting to stack up, you have to pay attention, right? It says almost every sizable body of water in Scotland has an associated Kelpie story, but the most extensively reported is that of Loch Ness. Now, parallels to the general Germanic neck or nixie and the Scandinavian Bakahast have been observed. More widely, the Wihin or the Wewin of Central America and the Australian Bunyip have been seen as counterparts. Now, the origin of the belief is malevolent water horses has been proposed as originating in human sacrifices once made to appease the gods associated with water. But narratives about the Kelpie also served as a practical purpose in keeping children away from dangerous stretches of water and warning young women to be wary of handsome strangers. Well, wouldn't that have been some good advice for the girl at the dance in Fort Augustus, eh? So it says Kelpies have been portrayed in their various forms in art and literature, including recently as the two 30-metre, 98-tall high structures in Falkirk, and that's the Kelpies there. That's in Scotland. That's one of our major landmarks. Absolutely magnificent statues there of the Kelpie, you see. And this is why Johnny whistles. He talks about the Kelpie a lot. So my bets, away from the eels that the New Zealand University are telling us, explains what Nessie is. I think we're dealing with something entirely different altogether. Something along the same kind of lines as the Bigfoot. Something along the same kind of lines as even UFOs, some of them. Because I'm thinking more interdimensional, it's supernatural, and in the case of the Loch Ness Monster, something more akin to the Kelpie, something that can actually change shape and form. And there's the story from my own family, my grandfather or great-grandfather cycling along the side of the loch, him and multiple witnesses, and they seen something coming down off the hill that they described as a huge, lovely-looking horse. And then on the back of the horse, though, was an individual that appeared to be, and the only way they could describe it, although it wasn't exact, was like some kind of a Native American chief. Big headdress on, you know, all the kind of the right garb. And it walked right across their path, misty morning. I'm sure the misty morning part was probably added later to add to the atmosphere of the story. But again, you're going back to a time when people typically didn't lie. There was obviously no social media, so it's not for clickbait. And when you tell people stories like this, especially back in the 50s, 60s time, there's a good chance, in fact, there's every chance you're going to be looked at as if you're a madman. Well, these people stuck to their story and this thing crossed in front of them. And then it got even more bizarre because it continued down the hill into the loch and just kept walking until it disappeared. And I think that's the same thing as people are seeing when it's got its neck sticking out the water. I think that could be the same thing people are seeing when it's just something causing a wake on the surface. I think it's all the same thing. I think there's something about that area. There's something supernaturally charged. And the monster is just the face of it. And again, can we call it a monster? More creature. I need to check myself because it's not a monster. Well, I don't think it's a monster. I think it's shy for a start. I'm only joking. But again, folks, it was interesting there as well how it said, if we go back here, parallels with the German neck or nixie, Scandinavian Bakahast, and the Wewin of Central America and the Australian Bunyip. Now, I say it's interesting because this is almost like how in America, you've got the Sasquatch. Typically, commonly you'll find that, again, up where Clyde Lewis is, the Pacific Northwest region, other regions as well. But then you come down to Florida and it's called the skunk ape. And then you go across to the Himalayas and it's called the Yeti. You go down to my very favourite Australia and it's called the Yowie. And you see how these things take different names depending on their geography, depending on the local stories about them. All the same thing, though, I think. Just different names for it. I'm not saying the Bigfoot is Nessie and Nessie's a UFO. I'm not saying those kind of shifts take place, folks. But I would definitely go for something that science probably can't explain with their current knowledge or their current understanding of biology and life as we know it. Because not many of them would be open to the whole woo-woo aspect that I'm bringing in here, that possibly, just possibly, that we have had something otherworldly taking place. Why not? Sid Vitch, my brother. Sid, you're enjoying
Coffee for
this.
Bakerville. Sorry, I'm late again.
I was late today, Sid. I was late today. Sid, I'll catch you up quickly, my friend, because I've just been kind of talking about, I'm taking it easy. I was up all night, literally, doing a show, Clyde Lewis, Ground Zero, talking all about the Loch Ness Monster. But I'm glad you're here, actually, because you came to my mind a moment ago. We're talking about water monsters like lochs, lakes. I'm sure you've got some lovely lakes up in Norway, the ones that aren't frozen all year round. But it says here the Scandinavian Bakkahast. And I'm wondering what you could tell us about that, Sid, because I would imagine you'd be the best person to talk about it. It says the Bakkahast, or the Beckhest, translated as the Brook horse, is a mythological horse in Scandinavian folklore. It's a close parallel with the Scottish Kelpie and the Welsh. Right-o. Susie Lewis, how do I say that, my friend? How do I say that? Chiffle-du? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? My Welsh stinks. It absolutely stinks, right? But that just proves what I was talking about a moment ago. This commonality. You even see it in religious books, folks. You take the Bible, you take the Quran, you take the Torah, and why is it all these stories start to sound the same? Do you think they might just be a different spin on the same story? And it's exactly the same thing with these beasties here. So, Sid, we've got another parallel, dude. We have got cool shape-shifting horses. Well, I don't know if your one shape-shifts yet or not, but I'm going to wait to see what you say in the chat room. So, yes, let's see. Half Q says, same as the planet catastrophe that was reported all over the planet. We gave it different names. Absolutely, Half Q. Absolutely, brother. With you all the way. If you see evil everywhere, you will find it in your mind. So much, lich. That is exactly why in recent times, when it comes to technology in particular, like CERN, like a moment ago, I've tried to move away from having a negative view about everything. I'm trying to switch that round and look at the optimistic. Not to the point where I ignore the obvious problems with some things. I'm not just blindly going back to sleep or sticking my head in the sand. But if there's one thing, or there's a couple of things I've learned along the way, it's the power of our minds. And we are so bloody powerful. It's hard to put into words. And if we're thinking negative all the time, don't be surprised when you see negative all around you. So that's why I've flicked the switch. Because if we start thinking positive, I'm not saying that we will change the world. However, I think we start to change the world around us and other people's worlds that we come into contact with as well. If that makes sense. It's just a different way of looking at things. It's that half glass full instead of half empty all the time. And most of the shows I listen to, the glass is half empty, and I love it. I get it. There's a part in our brain that, for some reason, we enjoy generating that negative vibe, that fear that these interdimensional critters all like to feed off again. It's weird. I get it. But at the same time, I don't think it does us any harm to look at potential positive outcomes when it comes to all of this as well. So that's why I've kind of flicked that switch. Let's see. Not really popular here, but there is Nokin. Now then, let's have a look, see if we can find what the knocking is. Knocking. Oh, liking it. sea spirit. Right. This is the Nixie thing that was in the article. Look. Neck or Nixie. So this is the Noken then. Brilliant. So it says the neck, Nikor, Nix, Nixie, Nixi, Noken. In fact, hang on a second, folks. I just need to get a link here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send a link to our good friend Ben, because he's going to be coming on with me later. 2 seconds, or Ben there. I'll tell him I'm on right now and warming the great people up for laters with some monster woo. There we go. So yeah, here we go. The neck, the Nikor, the Nixie knocking are shape-shifting water spirits. Da-da-ding, da-da-dung. What have I been telling you? They're all the same thing. In Germanic mythology and folklore, who usually appeared in the form of other creatures. Under a variety of names, they were common in the stories of all Germanic peoples, although they are perhaps best known from Scandinavian folklore. The related English knuckler was generally depicted as a worm or dragon. Now, although more recent versions depict the spirits in other forms, their sex, bynames, and various transformations vary geographically. And may I just correct this and add in there, Rose tells me that Welsh name meant water horse. Fantastic. So what was I going to say there? Yeah, may I just add in there, this needs updating, because they also now identify as many other different things as well, okay? Not all of them need man-pons, though. Mon-pons. Yeah, mon-pons. Is that what monsters would use, Anne? Mon-pons? Sounds good. We'll go with it. The Germanic Nix and his Scandinavian counterparts were male once upon a time. The German Nix was a female river mermaid. Ah, the mermaids. Now we're getting into it. People say, Kev, you don't believe in mermaids, do you? Oh, I believe that there's a lot of potential out there for things that maybe might seem ridiculous. I do, yes. Hey, colour me stupid, but we know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the bottom of our own oceans. So what's lurking down there? Have at it, Take your pick. I'm open to it all. The names are held to derive from Common Germanic. Nikwus or Nikvis, derived from Pi. They are related to Sanskrit. So hang on. This was related to something in Sanskrit. So they were kind of talking about these entities or something like this back then. And the form neck appears in English and Swedish. The Swedish is derived from Old Swedish necker. Right, that's the names. Let's see. Scandinavia, knock. The Naken, Naki, Nok were male water spirits who played enchanted songs on the violin, luring women and children to drown in lakes or streams. However, not all of these spirits were necessarily malevolent. Many stories indicate there are at least Noker that were entirely harmless to the audience and attracted not only women and children, but men as well with their sweet songs. Stories also exist wherein the Foskrim agreed to live with a human who had fallen in love with him. But many of these stories ended with the Nok returning to his home, usually a nearby waterfall or brook. Compare the legend to the one from Wales, and the Noker was said to grow despondent unless they had free, regular contact with a water source. So the Norwegian Foskrim, or just Grim, Swedish Stromkarl, is a related figure who is if properly approached, will teach a musician to play so adeptly, quote, that the trees dance and waterfalls stop at his music. Let me just dig into that little quote there. Might just seem like such a harmless little throwaway saying, eh? The trees dance and the waterfalls will stop at his music. Do you know why that is? Do you know why I think that is? I think that's because he's hitting the right frequency. They're talking there about something to do with audio waves, something to do with the fact that if you hit the right thing, the right vibration, you possibly could stop water from flowing in one direction. Not believe me? I think you could. Think of cymatics, think of the audio waves, think of that air, the vibration. I think you could. Again, you're probably thinking, Kev, you're reading a bit much into that. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So it says here it's difficult to describe the appearance of the Nix, as one of his central attributes was thought to be, bada bing, bada boom, shapeshifters in the room. Perhaps he did not have any true shape. He could show himself as a man playing the violin in brooks and waterfalls. Though often imagined as fair and naked today in folklore, he was more frequently described as wearing more or less elegant clothing, but could also appear to be treasure or various floating objects, or as an animal, most commonly in the form of the brook horse. The modern Scandinavian names are derived from Old Norse nicker, meaning river horse. Thus, it is likely that the figure of the brook horse preceded the personification of the Nix as the man in the rapids. Fosgrim and derivatives were almost always portrayed as especially beautiful young men whose clothing or lack thereof varied widely from story to story. Very, very interesting indeed, my friend. So we were on that page then. Yeah, it's saying we got down to here. Often described as a majestic white horse that would appear near rivers, particularly during foggy weather. Oh, wow. What did I say the story went like? When they seen the horse going across the road down into the loch? And I laughed and I said they probably added like the mist and the fog effects just like to add to the atmosphere later. Maybe not. Maybe that literally was an important part of the story then. Something about that effect. Is the air some way ionized? Is it lowering the veil between this world and the next? I don't know, folks. Anyone who climbed onto its back would not be able to get off again. The horse would then jump into the river, drowning the rider, and the brook horse could also be harnessed and made to plough through or plough, either because it was trying to trick a person or because the person had tricked the horse into it. The following tale is a good illustration of the brook horse. Let's see, we'll go through this, then we'll come to the chat room and we'll see if there's any other beasties or monsters that are local to where you are, folks. I want to hear about the kind of local stories that you got when you were a kid. Maybe there was some. Maybe you're near Lake Champlain. You got Champ up there. Maybe you're near one of these other places in the world that have got water monsters, lake monsters, shapeshifters. Indeed. A long time ago, there was a girl who was not only pretty, but also big and strong. She worked as a maid on a farm by Lake Hjartarson. Yeah, Hjartarson in southern Nerik. She was ploughing with the farm's horse on one of the fields by the lake. It was springtime and beautiful weather. Now the birds chirped and the wagtails fitted in the tracks of the girl and the horse in order to pick the worms. All of a sudden, a horse appeared out of the lake. It was big and beautiful, bright in colour and with large spots on the side. The horse had a beautiful mane which fluttered in the wind and a tail that trailed on the ground. The horse pranced to the girl to show her how beautiful he was. Now the girl, however, knew that it was the brook horse and ignored it. Then the brook horse came closer and closer, and finally he was so close that he could bite the farm horse in the mane. The girl hit the brook horse in the bridle and cried, "Disappear, you scoundrel, or you'll have to plough so you'll never forget it." As soon as she had said this, the brook horse had changed places with the farm horse, and the brook horse started ploughing the field with such speed that soil and stones whirled in its wake, and the girl hung like a mitten from the plough. Faster, the cock crows several times. The ploughing was finished, and the brute horse headed for the lake, dragging both the plough and the girl. But the girl had a piece of steel in her pocket, and she made the sign of the cross. Immediately, she fell down on the ground, and she saw the brute horse disappear into the lake with the plough. She heard a frustrated neighing when the brute horse understood that its trick had failed. Until this day, a deep track can be seen in that very same field. Wa-ooga, wa-booga. I should really have had a bit of thunderstorm on for that. That would have been ideal. Yes. I could have timed that there just to come in when we found the deep track still in the field. But that was great. That's a new one on me, Sidvich. And I love learning about new woo, especially when it goes alongside the woo from Loch Ness and all the other beastie woo, ooga booga woo that we've been talking today. So, I'll get a pic on the Discord from where I grew up. You'll be amazed. Peace, freedom, and outdoor toilets. Dude, my little man would fall off if I had to do the toilet outdoor too often in Norway. That's why they had to teach us how to, do a survival course before they would let us go out on the town. And I say the town tongue-in-cheek because I think there was one nightclub. I'm sure it was called Butler's. I think it was called Butler's. Can't remember. But it wasn't a town. It was like 4 or 5 houses in Ringabout. Maybe a bit bigger than that. But you don't want to be doing the toilet outside. Oh, my word. No danger. So somebody sent me a link here. Copy that link. Let's see what we've got. The SE. Oh, right then. So who's got the SE near them, or is somebody wanting to know about the SE? This is a new one. The SE is a Japanese lake monster. This isn't related to Godzilla, is it? I'm only joking. Said to lurk in Lake Aikida on Kyushu Island. It is described as being saurian in appearance. The name is formed in analogy with Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster. So it's actually a relative of Nessie. The Japanese have called it like Essie. I like that. So according to mythology, Essie was a white mare which had a little foal. Oh, well, imagine my surprise that their lake monster just happens to take the form of a horse. That's purely a coincidence then, right? Purely a coincidence. Yep. The Ninigan Japanese Loch Ness. Good stuff, brother. Thank you, Vardon Guerro. It says here, and they lived together on the shore of Lake Akita. However, when the foal was kidnapped by a samurai... Oh, whoa, what's going on? What did Miyagi do? What did Mr. Miyagi do with the horse? Did him and Danielson, did they have to use that horse? Is that where it went? Telling you, I know what's been happening here. And Issy was unable to find it. She jumped into the lake, and her despair transformed her into a giant saurian beast, which, since then, frequently surfaces, trying to find her lost child. Now, the creature was reportedly photographed in 1978 by a man who went by the name Mr. Matsubara. Now, 20 other people reportedly saw the creature in 1978, which they described as black, having 2 humps, each about 5 meters, 16 foot long, very similar to Loch Ness estimations then, swimming in the water lake. Now, in 1991, another visitor to the lake caught video footage of supposed animal movement in the lake. According to some interpretations, there is a bizarre-looking creature estimated to be 9 meters in length, but the footage could be of a surface swimming foot eels as well. Funny, because that takes us back to the eel hypothesis evidence that was discovered in Loch Ness. So are we going to see the footage here? Oh, it just tells you what video footage is. That's really disappointing. Really disappointing. Thought it might show you the video. Damn, no, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So we've got another one here. Let's see, copy link. Another listener suggestion. What the hell is that? 12 facts about the Ninjin, the creepiest animal you've never heard of. That looks like some kind of dolphin head on Nephilim feet. And Clyde Lewis was talking about the Nephilim last night. The hybridization of these entities from the deep with human girls. And yeah, the Ogopogo monster. I had a note of that last night. That's from Okanagan Lake. A giant snake, 15 meters long. Last September, there was 3 sightings of it. We can get to that in a moment. But yeah, the Ninjin. Oh, let's see. So Ninjins are humanoid creatures. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering that word, folks. Ningen. I'm going with Ninjins. Plus, it sounds like ninja. So Ninjins are humanoid creatures that live in icy waters near Antarctica. Ninjins are human-like and are completely white in colour. Some people think they are undiscovered species of apes who are able to breathe underwater. Sometimes Ninjins appear to have a mermaid tail or other fins on their bodies, while others report they have legs that enable them to walk on land. Wow! Now, this is some cool woo. Rumours about the existence of Ninjins originate in Japan because it is Japanese fishing and research vessels that began to report the sightings of these creatures. Now, again, I find that terribly important. That this was real people out doing their job, and they're saying that they've come across this thing. I don't know, it just adds another kind of layer of credibility to it. Again, it means nothing. You don't need to take anything from it, but for me, when you hear about that kind of thing, I don't know, people out doing their job and they see something when they're doing it, pretty cool. Upon first sighting, members of the Japanese research ship thought that they were seeing a foreign submarine off in the distance, and upon getting closer, they realised it was a living animal. Eventually, the creature went back underwater, and last night, we had somebody phoning into Clyde's show talking about how he was on one of the naval vessels that was called or responded to the tsunami in Japan, Fukushima. And he was talking about a 60-foot, and then another caller pointed out that when you added the tentacles on, probably 90-foot, but an absolutely giant type squid. Giant. And this thing looked like an overturned boat when they were approaching it. That's how big you're talking about the body of this thing, folks. And then when they did actually get closer, they realised this was an animal. So yeah, my point being, there's so many things that could be out in that ocean, any ocean. You just got to keep a very open mind. And something that looks like this, how haven't I heard of the Ninjins before? Maybe I have. It's not stuck in the old Rolodex of woo. It's believed that those aboard the research ship were able to extensively document the sighting with photos and video. Now, that evidence has never surfaced, either because government influence or cultural pressure to not be associated with a paranormal event. And Ninjins rose to popular knowledge after an article was published about them in 2007 issue of Japanese Paranormal magazine. The article called them the Antarctic Humans and included a Google Maps screenshot of what appeared to be a Ninjin off the coast of Namibia. Very interesting. And listen, if you don't think it's a Ninjin, that's cool, because it's still pretty weird. What is it? That's what you have to ask, you know. Ninjins appear most often at night. An Ninjin means human in Japanese. Sometimes Ninjins are described as the size of humans or apes. Other times they appear 60 to 90 foot long with blubbery skin of a whale. Wonder if that's what that guy was actually talking about last night when he was talking about Fukushima. Some people go so far as to say that some of the images you find of ninjas online are purposely unbelievable to siphon credibility from real photos. Now, there's a very good tactic that can be used. Say you want to cover up something, and in this case, the St. John. There's a couple of people start to get photos of them from the boats, stuff like that. What you could do in an attempt to muddy the waters is put out 100 fake pictures of ninjas. And then somebody like me comes along and I'll click on 2 or 3 quite obviously fake ninja pictures and I start to think to myself, oh, wow, what heap of crap. People LARPing it up, people faking it, CGIs. And right at the very back, right at the very end, there's the real pictures and I never get there. Because by that time I've already given up. Why would I waste my time looking at more crap? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a very good tactic to be aware of, folks. Doesn't mean it's always happening. And it'll always appear that it could be happening. And that picture there, what the heck? Now, I have a few problems with the picture straight off the bat, but that doesn't mean anything. It's very out of focus here, yet over there further away is in focus, and out of focus bits at the same distance it's in focus, and I don't know, folks. But again, it's not putting me off the ninja thing. Not putting me off at all. So this one here says a possible photograph of the mythical Antarctic dwelling cryptid ninja. I do not have the source of this image. How convenient. So I have no idea whether or not it was forged. Wah, wah, wah. However, it's most likely fake. At least they say that. So it says here, ninjas have eyes and a mouth, but no other facial features. Supposedly, this underwater video shows what a ninja looks like in its habitat. What the hell is that? Okay, that could be the end of a ship. See, like the bow of it? Again, I don't know. It's interesting, though. You'd have to know what context that's filmed in. So it says the main reason information about the ninja is limited is because the remote location they live in means it's very expensive to take a trip with just the hopes of catching sight of one. Though there are rumours the Japanese government is monitoring internet postings and photos of ninjas and attempting to remove them. Sorry, I thought somebody was coming in there, folks. But I'm going to have to get going really soon, everyone, because I do have another show today. Another show. Somebody says disinformation or even typing in certain names will bring up rubbish like computer games or cartoons. Yeah, exactly. Any of the good stuff that they don't want you to see. That's when the shenanigans start happening. But the ninja, very, very cool. So we've learned a lot about shape-shifting water beasties today. The Kelpie, and we all got into this because I was on with Clyde Lewis last night. Yes, indeed. The Kev Baker, or before I get called it in the chat room, just call me Dave. Because when we were coming back before the last segment, Clyde, not once, but twice called me Dave Baker. So at least once a day, I'm going to refer to myself as the Dave Baker Show. All right? Okay. So yeah, Dave. I thought it was funny. Just as well I can laugh at myself, or I'd have been quite miffed, you know. My radio hero got my name wrong. Oh, no. Oh, Earth just swallow me up. Is that a Kelpie in your room, Kev? Well, you know, thanks to Fred Doe, maybe this is a Kelpie. Maybe it's a Kelpie cone. Cone Kelpie? Dave Baker, yes. My bong is empty. Oh, no, King, look at it another way. Your bong is waiting to be full. You see? You like that? See? Let's see. Denny, no headache, but the body aches are sliding over the past hour. You feel better soon, Kristen. Please feel better soon. We're up to 100. 100 members. We may well have the hairy hand by tonight's simulcast stream. And talking of that, folks, let me bring you over here. I will get the link right now before I go. Copy the link. Paste that in there. I will be live with Ben Emlyn Jones simulcasting in under 2 hours' time. So I'm going to get fed. I'm going to go and super glue some hair onto my hands and get amorous with Anne for a while. You ready, Anne? I've got hairy gloves. I'm not joking. I think I'll be getting the shoe if I continue down this path. But folks, can I just take the time to remind all of you how important you are? Members, mods, everyone that's watching this, to everything you see here. It probably wouldn't be, no, it definitely wouldn't be easy to do every day if we didn't have this little vibe going on, this little thing that we've got going on here at the KBS Safe Space. And I just want to take the time to remind you again how much I appreciate you all, how much I thank all of you for supporting the show in the various ways, shapes and forms. And even if you can't support us through the memberships, through the live chats, super chats, Brian, through the PayPal, you can do your bit too. Because now we are going to try and step things up, because every time we come on now, what I want us to start getting in the habit of doing, it's a good habit, but let's share it. Any social media profiles that we have, don't be ashamed to tell people that you spend time in the safe space. Tell people. And the same way that we've worked together to get to the first 100 members, let's now take the entire channel and all of the different work and shows that we do here with all of the guests and all of the guys and all of the callers and all of you as well. But let's start taking that to the next level. Let's be the best version of KBS we can be, but I can't do it without you. So remember to like the video on your way out, share it, dislike it if you want, leave a comment in the hard comment section, and thank you all, because this happy face, this what we've got going on, this is thanks to all of you. And I just hope I do you all proud. And if getting on Clyde Lewis's show last night was anything to go by, we're starting to get there, folks, right? So until later, you keep it real, keep your minds open, but not to the point where your mind turns to black goo. Just keep it on a constant level of woo. That one didn't work either. I'll get it, though. I might need to pay somebody intelligent to make me like a kind of snappy going outline. Then we can just cut to the music, and it's like really professional. We don't want professional here. It's the Kev Baker Show. Real people, real streaming. Oh, no, I've done it again. Why isn't that playing? Ah, wrong song on. See, I thought I timed it brilliantly. I was going to do that whole professional thing. We were just going to slide out to some music. It was going to be smooth, but no, didn't work. Let's try it again, Baker, you absolute doofus. Yes, I second that from the chat room. Just a guy. Shannon, if you see this, hurry on back, man. I'm going to drop Shannon an email just now. I'll make sure he's okay. Just a guy, we miss you, dude. Big shout out to Marty. I didn't see you when you came in there. Big shout out. Jose Ramon Francis as well. Yes, indeed. Sidvich, great woo. Great woo, my friend. Armand, I think you're getting brown chicken, brown cow. You're going camping with Queen Goddess up in Loch Ness. I've decided you are. Stop it. I know you are. And remember, if you can't be careful, folks, at least be coneful.